Hello, everyone. My name is Hafiz Ahmed Hassan, and welcome to the Graduate Student Community Spring 2026 Seminar Series featuring Dr. Andrew Ejenakevwe. Um, for the academic year 2025-26, we have our GSC leadership team here. We have Rodney and Zoreen as co-chairs. The publicity team includes Avinash, Swapnil, and myself. We have two treasurers, Siavash and Anchu. We have a sport team including Samuel, Roshan, um, Rachel, Suramia Vibha, and Narayan. And we have our faculty mentor, Dr. Farooq Mistry. Um, GSC members usually meet on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. over Zoom. If you need the meeting link, you can contact Rodney. And usually before the start of each semester, we set up a time that suits every GSC member for our weekly meetings. If you want to become a GSC member on Engage, I have the QR code displayed over here. You can scan the QR code, click join after logging in with your OU ID. And that's all you need to do to become a GSC member. If you want to follow us on LinkedIn, I have the QR code being displayed over here. You can just scan it and click join and get regular updates on our LinkedIn group. We also have Facebook and Instagram pages, and the corresponding QR codes are being displayed over here. If you want to get regular updates on our Facebook and Instagram pages, you can scan these codes and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Importantly, we also have our YouTube channel where we upload all the GSC webinars. If you find something that may interest you, you can go to our YouTube channel and look at all the videos. I have the QR code being displayed for the YouTube channel over here as well. So GSC members have access to Bird Team Room, which has all the amenities, including couches, whiteboard, coffee pot, and microwave. If you want to gain access to the Bird Team Room, you can email GSC members. Just a reminder that during the webinar, I will be sharing a Google form link. Please make sure that you fill it out. So we can keep track of the attendance and this helps us keep arranging these webinars. For the spring semester, the theme for the webinar series was exploring research frontiers with generative AI, which brought GSC seminar, which brought leading voices from academia industry to explore. And also we discuss how people can work with generative AI to create intellectual, economic, and social value and connect these domains. Also, how research issues, methods, and applications that arise when people collaborate across research industry and community. And what are the ways for people to design generative AI initiatives that link academic inquiry, economic innovation, and social benefit in ethical and equitable ways. So today we have Dr. Andrew who will be presenting his research. The title is Responsible and Effective AI Integration for Cutting-Edge Research. He's a PhD, but he has done his PhD in mechanical engineering from University of Oklahoma, where he's currently a postdoctoral researcher. His research combines experimentation, modeling, simulation, machine learning, AI, and field validation to develop affordable, smart building energy solutions for reliable monitoring and effective control of heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. His work has been published in reputable journals, and his research excellence has been recognized through prestigious awards such as ASHRAE Grant-in-Aid Award for Outstanding Graduate Student Research and the Gallogly College of Engineering Dissertation Excellence Award. With that, I would like to invite Dr. Andrew to present his slides.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Ahmad, for that wonderful introduction. So I'll go ahead and share my slides so that you can see. Okay. Yeah, so like Ahmad introduced, my name is Andrew, and I want to say good afternoon to everyone. I really elated by the privilege of having you guys come listening to my seminar presentation today, which will be on responsible and cutting edge, responsible and effective AI integration for cutting edge research. So I would go through this outline in the course of my presentation. And basically, my presentation would be more like a summary of my experience over the years in the course of my career, from like the work I did with machine learning, and then how I came into contact with generative AI when it became uh, in vogue, and then some of the experiences I had with that. And mainly, I would focus on the concerns that I had and I've been able to um, overcome or address those concerns, which will be the basis for the recommendations I will make on how these tools can be used responsibly for cutting-edge research. So to help guide the presentation, I have a flow chart at the bottom of each slide that shows this outline. And I will begin by giving a quick professional background of myself. I had my bachelor's and master's degree in Nigeria, and also had the opportunity to teach in two different universities in Nigeria before I moved over to the US. And like Ahmad said earlier, completed my PhD from the University of Oklahoma last year. And um, yeah, AI is such a hot topic now, so it's a great privilege for me to really be part of the conversation around it, and I don't take it for granted. I really want to appreciate the leadership team of the graduate students community, the faculty mentor, who has also been a mentor to me as well in the course of my career, for giving me this platform to share some of my experiences with everyone on artificial intelligence and machine learning. Though I'm not really an expert in this area, I would love to give a simple background on AI and machine learning, just so that it's not just a buzzword that we use. So from this figure, this animated figure we have here, it gives us a peep into the AI universe, where we have the outer layer showing artificial intelligence. And then subset to that, we have layers like machine learning, neural networks, deep learning, and then generative AI. And then cloud storage is also a very important or major part of the AI universe, or like cloud computing, if we'll call it that. Um, but what I want to focus on is the distinction between artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I would go with this definition that uh, classifies artificial intelligence more like the broad umbrella of creating systems that mimic human intelligence. So things like reasoning, decision-making, recognition, perception, and things like that all fit into the world or the bracket of artificial intelligence. But then machine learning is just a subset of artificial intelligence, and it deals with algorithms that learn patterns from data to improve performance of systems. So we can simply say that artificial intelligence is like the goal, while machine learning is like the method to achieve that goal. And in the course of my career, I started off during my PhD from doing research that are related to machine learning, where I used machine learning techniques to do HVAC-related studies that I will get into in subsequent slides. But then later on, I think around the beginning of 2023, I got into the use of generative AI, which was also super useful for my research in the later part of it. The first work I did where machine learning came in handy or was applied is in the development of an IoT-based automated fault detection and diagnosis technique. And I would want to first give a background on the motivation for this work. So the motivation essentially comes from the fact that most homeowners, residents, they do very well in trying to maintain their HVAC systems. But for the most part of it, the kind of maintenance they do are very basic elementary maintenance, like changing of the air filter periodically. Most homeowners don't really pay so much attention or, like go through the stress of trying to know the health of their system. And they just allow the system to keep running. And over time, if there is deterioration in the system, which is bound to happen with time, then, eventually the system breaks down. And it is when the system breaks down or there is a very obvious, abnormality in the system, then they get a technician to come service the system if it's still serviceable, or sometimes they even have no other option than to replace the system. But with the advent of smart thermostats, researchers began to look at the possibility of developing cheap automated fault detection and diagnosis frameworks that can monitor the health of the system in real time and, detect very early whenever a fault begins to set into the system so that it does not lead to a breakdown before something is done about it. So this is kind of giving us the preventive maintenance as opposed to a corrective maintenance. And this is where the work that we did in 2022 and 2023 came in, where we developed a physics-based supervised machine learning technique that uses a physics-informed model, if I'll put it that way. So we have this model which tries to learn the energy change pattern in the AC system. For example, if you have like an indoor unit, like most of us have, either in your attic or in a closet in the building, then we have this framework that has this embedded algorithm, and it monitors the energy change pattern using a thermodynamic property called the delta I. So I will just put this out here. So the delta I is the enthalpy change across the evaporator coil. And with this model, we are able to learn the pattern across the coil in the system using data from the smart thermostat and data from another sensor that comes with smart thermostat usually, what we call the node sensor. So the concept that we developed or came up with is to have this node sensor mounted on the closest so we identify the closest diffuser in the building, and then we mount the node sensor like we did for this building, and we are able to get relevant data that we add to the smart thermostat data to monitor the enthalpy change, and then compare that enthalpy change with the one from our machine learning algorithm, the prediction from our machine learning algorithm. So if the deviation between the prediction and the measured is positive, then we are able to detect a low charge, which relates to like refrigerant leakage. But if it is negative, like if it's a reduction, then it will lead us to the conclusion that it is a drop in the airflow, which could be because the air filter is dirty and you are alerted quickly, early enough to change that. And this work actually got the ASHRAE's Top Conference Paper Award for graduate students in 2022. ASHRAE is a very well reputed society of heating, refrigeration, and air conditioning engineers across the globe, both US, Canada, and several parts of the Europe, as well as Africa. So then the next work that I did using machine learning is to develop an automated calibration framework. And this is to, first of all, give the context of the model and the motivation for developing that framework. So this is the model that we used to test or validate the calibration framework. Basically, this is a co-simulation model that was built using different simulation tools like Energy Plus, Modelica-based tools like Demola, and then Python and MATLAB were also used to develop this model. And essentially, this model is aimed at coupling the dynamics of the building and the dynamics of the AC system in a more representative way. So for the building, we used Energy Plus and Demola to model the dynamics of the building. So we have physics-based model of the hydrothermal dynamics of the residential building, which is captured in some of the components that you see here. Then on this side, we have a physics-based vapor compression cycle model that has heating correlations, pressure correlations, and things like that built into it. You can see like elements of the vapor compression cycle, like the compressor, the condenser evaporator, and the expansion valve. And then a critical component is the modeling of the thermostat controls to mimic the closed loop feedback control that you have in residential HVAC systems. But like I said, this is just the context. The goal was to develop the automated calibration framework. And to do that, we used two machine learning techniques. So the first is the reinforced learning technique, like genetic algorithm, specifically was what we combined with a simple supervised regression-based machine learning technique. And we did the calibration in two phases. So for the first phase, genetic algorithm was used to calibrate just the AC unit of the co-simulation model. And then after calibrating the AC system and then running it with the uncalibrated building model, we then used the least square method to train a model, what we call the resistance capacitance model. The resistance capacitance model is a gray box model that, incorporates the physics of the building envelopes, like the walls of the building, the roof of the building, and things like that, using this diagram and relevant equations associated with this diagram. So basically what this diagram shows us is the temperature outdoor, the wall temperature, the indoor temperature, and then variables that affect the air condition, like the solar heat gains, the internal heat gains from people, and other equipment in the space. So we were able to use this calibration framework to calibrate that code simulation model in an automated fashion that does not require or involve manual tuning. Rather, we built the framework in Python and then established a two-way communication between Python or between Python, Demola, which is the tool where the code simulation testbed is run, and then Energy Plus, which runs the building model to do the calibration, the tuning of the parameters in an automated way without any self-input once the framework starts running. So those two are the major areas where I worked on machine learning, and currently I am working on trying to use machine learning and artificial neural network to try to predict supplier dew points in HVAC systems and beyond. And this is one of the early results that we have where we used a machine learning technique to predict supplier dew points and then compared it with the supplier dew point from the code simulation testbed, as well as from the data that we got from two different residential homes, one in Norman, Oklahoma here, and then the other one in Miami, Florida. But like I said, at the later part of my my career, or my PhD journey, I got into the use of generative AI and generative AI assistants like ChatGPT or Gemini and the likes to do some basic tasks that simplifies workflow for me, such as text editing, finding literature whenever I want to do literature reviews, identify research gaps, and things like that. It was also very useful for code development. And then it's also been a learning tool for me and also been useful for, doing basic things like graphic design. But then I must confess that when I first got in contact with generative AI, I was a bit very skeptical and very cautious about how much of this technology I want to use. Obviously, because of the concerns that I had, which I'm going to talk about in my next slide. So these are some of the concerns that I have. These are some of the concerns I had back in 2023, and they are concerns that I still have, and concerns that I believe that several of us on this call today and several other well-meaning individuals have. Obviously, there is a concern that the use of generative AI, if not guided, could lead to a loose grip on fundamentals. Physics and chemistry, sciences in general, they are built on fundamental principles and concepts. But with this, evolution or advent of AI that we are witnessing, it portends a threat to how much of grasp that students have on fundamentals. And then there is also the concern of breach of intellectual integrity, where you are not able to really certify the source of content. There is also the risk of copyright infringement, the possibility of people getting other people's ideas, stealing other people's ideas. Things like plagiarism could be concerns that this raises. And then there is also the concern of misinformation. But the biggest concern for me is the potential threats to human intelligence. Because I believe that humans are intelligent, we are an intelligent species. And so as much as we can, we must do everything to make sure that we guard that human intelligence that is inherent in us. And that was one of the biggest concerns that I had from the very onset. So I'm going to dwell a bit more on that concern by just highlighting some of the things that have been uh, identified or laid out as key threats to human intelligence based on the use of generative AI. And one of them is what we call cognitive atrophy, where a 2025 study was conducted, and it showed, I have it referenced at the bottom, it showed that relying on AI assistance could lead to what we call, or what we can call, cognitive debt, where reduced mental effort in generating, organizing, or synthesizing information results in weaker, less connected, and less functional cognitive network. So they had like sessions. They had 3 sessions where they tested students on activities where they have to use their brain alone, activities where they had to use search engines like Google, and activities where they had to use large language model assistants like ChatGPT, and did a comparison to get to this conclusion. Then another key threat is the reduction in critical thinking that could come especially from over-reliance on AI, where people no longer, uh, take the time or be, putting the effort to do rigorous study that enhances critical thinking. There is also the threat that comes from the easy to use and time saving trap, which I obviously fell into at the very beginning, because these generative AI assistant tools, they are very easy to use and they are very time saving, right? So it's very attractive when we think of it in that regard. Like if I have to write, let's say, a manuscript for a journal publication, and then I already have my results, and then I just need to get, let's say, the introduction section done. I just want to have like a literature review for it. There is that temptation to say, oh, let's ask ChatGPT to put in a very nice introduction, tell it what I want, give me a 4-page introduction, give me literature review, a summary of review of literature in this particular area. And it does that nicely. But then it is at a cost. It is at a cost to my the development, the continued development of my intelligence. And that was a concern for me, you know. And then another key threat comes from the thought that this could weaken the confidence in graduates or professionals. We might get into the risk of churning out professionals who are not very confident because they cannot defend their work, because they do not know the fundamentals, because they did not really go through the rigors that uh, those before went through. And that could really be a problem. And then lastly, I also worry about the impact that it could have on youth, the youth population. Someone defined the word youth some years ago, and I put that definition here, that the word youth can be considered as an acronym that means you owe usefulness to humanity. And so when I think about the evolution of artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence to be precise, it makes me concerned about the potential impact on the youth who are supposed to be useful and resourceful to humanity and society. But having talked about these key threats to human intelligence, yes, we can conclude that we should not throw away the baby with the bathwater, like an old proverb would say. And I definitely will not subscribe to the idea that we should ban the use of generative AI. As far as I'm concerned, it's here to stay. But what I think is that in as much as we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, we must make every effort to ensure that we don't leave the baby wet. And how do we do that? So I would begin to tie up by making some recommendations from my experience, some of the things that have helped me, and then also from what I have seen that some others are advocating for. But I'd like to start by giving a context for my recommendations. Now, according to the International Center for Academic Integrity is defined as a commitment to 6 fundamental values. One of them is honesty, and then there is trust, and the third is fairness, and the fourth, respect. The number 5 is responsibility, and number 6, which obviously is not the least of them, is courage. And for me, I believe, or I am more, I find the word courage or the value courage more appealing, because I believe courage ties into all the other values listed there, because it takes courage to be able to do the right thing. And it takes courage to be honest. It takes courage to be trustworthy. It takes courage to be fair. It takes courage to have respect for yourself and others. And then it takes courage also to be responsible. And from my life experience, and something I believe with all my heart, I believe that God has given us courage. He gives us the spirit that helps us to be courageous. The Holy Book says that God, who is the creator of every being, has not given us a spirit of timidity, but rather he has given us a spirit of courage, of self-control, of love, and a sound mind. So based on this context, I would present some of the ways that I believe these values for academic integrity can be achieved. And the first is to encourage and promote caution in the use of generative AI tools. I know that most of these platforms like ChatGPT, Gemini, and the likes, they always have like a disclaimer whenever you get responses from the tool that tells you, please try to verify whatever information you get. The information that you get from this assistant may not be 100% accurate. That is very good. That is wonderful. But I believe this has to be encouraged even more. And it has to come from it has to be a personal discipline to ensure that caution is applied in the use of generative AI tools. And of course, that ties into the next, which is the application of self-control, which, like I was saying with the first bullet point, the need for discipline, the need for self-control. This is very, very important. And I saw from my early days that I struggled. At first, I didn't really apply self-control because I just wanted to get things done very quickly. I felt like, oh, this was like, it's easy to use. It saves me a lot of time, but I didn't really care about what the implications and the dangers could be for me. But by the grace of God, and just like the Holy Book also says, and I refer to the Holy Book a lot because the Holy Book is my manual for living. The Holy Bible is my manual for living. And it makes me to understand that just like I referenced before, that God has not given us the spirit of timidity, but he has given us a spirit of courage, a spirit of love, and a spirit of self-control. Self-control. And it was when I came to that realization and I began to engage the Spirit of God within me, then I was able to manage the use of generative AI and ensure that I used it in a responsible manner. And then I would also recommend what I call a supervised usage of AI assistants. And for this, I'm not talking about having a physical supervisor, even though, of course, yes, I did get some mentorship from my supervisor, Dr. Lisong, and she did try to guide me on some of the ethics that I need to maintain as I use generative AI for my research. But I found very, very resourceful and useful the help of the supervisor that I had within me, if I would call it that, and that again is still the Spirit of God in me. I found that with the Spirit of God in me, I was able to use generative AI in a more responsible way, and in a more intelligent way, where I was able to get the best. I was able to get much more out of it than I would have gotten if I was just over relying on it, just blindly. So I want to recommend that and add another reference from the Holy Book that says, it is God's Spirit in a person that makes wise human insight possible. And I'll take that again. It says, it is God's Spirit in a person that makes wise human insight possible. So this was something that was very helpful for me, and I thought to share that as we discuss together ways that we can encourage and promote responsible use of AI for cutting-edge research. And finally, I want to also advocate, or I think it's very important, that proper education of students on responsible use of AI is highly encouraged. And by this, I'm talking not from a reactionary point of view, but more of a proactive approach to educating students, to educating researchers on the use of AI. Proactive in the sense that we must go beyond just having course policy statements where professors and lecturers say, this is what we want and this is what we don't want with respect to the use of AI for their courses. Instead, I recommend, or I think it would be more beneficial if, as academics, professors could take more effort, could put in more effort to research about AI assistants, AI tools, AI models, and how these models work, and then carve out time in their lectures to educate students on how these models actually work and how they should be used, which would be very helpful if they could be, if such instructions could be incorporated into course curriculum. I believe that would greatly help and promote responsible use of AI for research and even for learning. So I would conclude by using these two quotes that I got. One of them is from Tim Cook, the former CEO of Apple, and he says, what all of us have to do is to make sure we are using AI in a way that is for the benefit of humanity, not to the detriment of humanity. And I think that is very, very true. Then the other quote is from the Holy Bible, and it says that I have the freedom to do anything, but I would not be controlled by anything. I have the freedom to do anything, but I won't be controlled by anything. So I would end by acknowledging those that have made significant impact in my life, in my career, in my academic progress. One of them being my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who went to the cross to die for me, to die for my sins because of his love for me, and to give me the new life which I now have, which is a life of freedom from sin and from guilt and all the different struggles that I used to have as a young man. And then I also want to acknowledge the Building Energy Efficiency Lab here at OU. My supervisor, Dr. Lisong, has been phenomenal. My lab mates have been great. I really appreciate the inputs they've made in my journey, as well as the University of Oklahoma. And then a very big thumbs up goes to the graduate student community, which I had been part of from 2021 when I started my program. And then I had the opportunity to serve in the publicity team for about 2 years before I couldn't keep up, if I will put it that way. But I really learned a lot from the GSC, and I'm so glad that the leadership deemed it necessary. I know our faculty mentor, Professor Farouk, he has been since 2023 pushing and encouraging efforts to sensitize researchers, to sensitize students, graduate students, and the likes on AI. I remember having to feature in, I think, like one seminar talk with the ASME, and we had a conversation on ChatGPT. And I can see that focus has remained, and I'm so glad that these concerns, efforts are being made to address it. And then there are also these other industry partners that have worked with other institutes, faculty from other institutes, students from other institutes that have been very, very helpful in the course of my career. So I would end at this note and open the floor for feedbacks and contributions. I would really love to know what you guys think about other ways that AI, machine learning, can be used responsibly for research and for learning purposes. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Andrew, for an insightful presentation. I would like to invite the audience, if they have any questions, comments, takeaways, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask Dr. Andrew.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for the presentation. Can I talk? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the part that is actually you mentioned about how we can help students or encourage them to unlimit the work that they can do with the AI, ChatGPT, and others. It's really important. My class is not like writing. I know that my colleague who has issue with the writing, they have always had issues with the students just copied from online or AI. My class is mostly solving problems, and what I saw in my students that is very, for me, it's very good things that they do is I give them like some like practice tests for exams or something like that, and then actually when they talk to me, they said we give it to ChatGPT to change the numbers, change the little bit the situation, and then solve it for us, and then we understand it better. This is the first time I have heard about it. I was always kind of worried about them using AI for their project to do it, that I don't know how I can control it, but this part is very good, and I was thinking how I can use it for, or perhaps the students know because they learn from each other, honestly, but just wondering if I can somehow put it in my syllabus or somehow help them to use AI, just limited as you mentioned, not like a broad. So
Yeah, thank you very much, Tukushide. That was very good input. Dr. Sepe?
Yes, thank you so much for your very good informative presentation. Let me start with your technical part. What I understand is you use machine learning for this thermostat and predicting what would happen. My understanding is that it goes as far as prediction, but doesn't give solutions. Is that correct?
So it predicts, yes, so it tells you that there's a fault and this is what is likely the cause of the fault.
Okay. Well, I was hoping you go further and it would give recommendations with generative AI. I've seen similar studies with elevators that they have very sensitive, what you call feedback mechanism. They predict that the elevator would fail soon and they would contact the mechanic, and before we know, the mechanic is on the way and they recommend even what parts they bring. Now, my impression was that generative AI would be used to further your technical part. I don't know ChatGPT, but I'm sure you would find generative AIs to go further and based on the past experience, recommend a solution, because that's where it would make a big impact. As far as you quoted that you have the freedom to do everything from your religion, and I want to say from my religion that we have the freedom to do everything, but there is consequences. It's cause effect. So you don't have freedom to absolutely do everything and be free. But thank you so much. And as far as Shida's comment, we've been working on it. We tell our students to use AI, but declare it. It has to be responsible use, not wholesale copying. And actually, we thought that we can't stop them. We have to show them how to use it productively. And we asked them to use it for editing, even for idea generation, but the solution has to be theirs. And they have to rephrase even if they copy something. Thank you so much again for your good seminar.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Seperim. I really appreciate the idea. Actually, it's one of the things that I'm currently looking at, trying to see how I could use tools like Olama, which gives more flexibility to try to integrate it into the work I've done with on automated fraud detection and diagnosis to take it a step further. So thank you so much. Yes, that's very
Thank you.
helpful.
Does anyone else, Rodney, do you have any question?
I think Farouk has his hand up.
Okay, Farouk.
You're muted.
I have my students in all my classes and also my graduate students use LLMs.
Okay.
But as Andrew has pointed out, in a responsible way. I get them to learn how to use it as a partner, where they are the ones with the knowledge, and they are using the LLM to help them think deeper thoughts to make things happen. I've also used it for when I prepare a lecture and I have the slides, I send it into ChatGPT and I've trained it to come along and summarize it so that the students understand it in the context of undergraduate students and graduate students. And I don't take it verbatim, but I have a feeling saying, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, so in all my lectures, the last 2 or 3 slides are presented by FMGPT. That's Farouk Mystery with ChatGPT. That's the avatar that exists. And I take the students through it and say, hey, look, this is what ChatGPT told me that you would have problems with. And I'm putting it together so that you can think about it. And we discussed that. The third thing I do with ChatGPT is to use it for grading purposes. And it's taken me quite some time to get it to learn how to do it the way I want to do it. And I've been using ChatGPT since spring of 2024, and it now knows how to write. It now knows how to answer my questions. I do not ask it to say speculative things. I ask it to educate me if I want some information. And I go back to it and say, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. I think differently. What do you think? So, for example, I'm reading an essay from our first year student, and he's made a statement up there, and I've come along and said, I'm allergic to this statement. If you agree with me, tell me why. If you disagree with me, tell me why. And it's come back and said, here are the 2 points. I agree with you for this reason. I don't agree with you for this reason. Then the choice is mine as to how I wish to respond to the student. So I use LLM, particularly ChatGPT. I only use one because it's trained to my voice and the way in which I deal with it. And I'm very comfortable with what it's there, because everything that goes out is what I accept. I'm responsible for it. Rashida, that's answering your question. And Andrew, that's building on what you talked about, being conscious, being it tying to your values and stuff like that.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Farouk. That's
Thank you.
insightful.
We still have 3 minutes. Rodney, you want to go?
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. That was a really interesting talk. I had a question about, well, do you think using AI like that is better for more, I guess, abstract thoughts and less analytical solutions to problems? So, for example, I used it one day just to test on the 2R2C model that you presented that we're both really familiar with, and said, here, give me a time domain solution for this problem. And it just gave a completely wrong answer in a couple parts. And I said, no, that's not right. And then it said, oh, you're right. I should fix that. So just do you think it is still useful for analytical solutions or mostly abstract?
Well, I think like Dr. Farouk said, it can be used for analytical solutions, but with with inputs from someone who is knowledgeable in that domain. For example, with you have the basics, you have the fundamentals, so you know that what is given you is hogwash, and you're able to help. You could actually in that process help to train it, because these models also like we all know, they are large language models, so they use data that they get from people to train the model and improve the model. For abstract reasoning, I'm not really a big fan of that, and I put more caution on that because I feel like that's where the critical thinking part could be lost if we engage these tools for abstract reasoning more. Our imaginative abilities will not really be enhanced and developed. Yeah. So.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for asking that question.
Thanks, Rodney. I see a comment from Ola. Do you want to unmute yourself? And
yeah, thank you. I just did that. Thank you for giving the floor. So first of all, thank you very much, Andrew. That was honestly really it was very helpful. It was quite interesting. I followed through and I found it really great. For me, I'm doing a research master's, and so because I don't have privy to, I'm not being taught. I need an avenue to get taught and to learn a lot of things. So, in the absence of having that, classroom experience where I have my lecturers who, I will probably be dependent on them to be able to give me all the information from their own knowledge, I have to find it. And so I found AI really useful in helping me to learn, because pretty much like Professor Farouk said, I question it, I ask for information, and it does give me, sources for, papers that I probably didn't know that they were there. And it would give me the information I need. So I'm able to actually now go into those papers and get the information that I need. So I've used it, really used it to educate myself and also to be, a co-pilot, as it were. Not the co-pilot itself, the AI co-pilot, but, it's actually helped me navigate information, knowledge about what I'm doing, and it's really been beneficial. So it helped me, time-wise, because you mentioned it in your presentation in terms of it helps to, it helps to cover a lot of ground in a shorter space of time, as opposed to if I had to do everything by myself. I don't even know how much time I would spend, but it's actually help, which is what it should do actually. It's meant to be a tool that you use to help and enhance your work and help with the work, not depend on it entirely. So yes, thank you very much. That's
Yeah,
my take.
thank you very much, Ola. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. It could be a very helpful educational resource that you can use for learning. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the audience? If there are no questions, I would like to thank Dr. Andrew again for his presentation, and thank the audience for being here. Thank you all. And with that, I
Yeah.
would like to hand it over to Farooq.
I'm going to stop recording, and in our usual way, we